After losing his childhood crush, Al gave up on adventure and chose the quiet life of farming. Ironically, working the land gave him insane powers, way more than he ever wanted. Because of that, he kept getting pulled into saving the world from monsters and demons. Our story kicks off with a team of adventurers locked in battle with a terrifying forest dragon. The dragon launched a fiery blast, trying to roast them into crispy snacks. Not wanting to become barbecue, the adventurers made the smart move: they ran for their lives. Not far away, a young farmer named Al heard the thunderous boom and glanced at the sky, wondering if rain was on the way. He went back to tending his eggplants, completely calm. Al was passionate about farming, it was his whole life. Soon his fisherman buddy Tester showed up. Al casually mentioned that he had maxed out all his farming skills to level 10. Tester was shocked, especially since Al had just recently maxed out fishing too. This reminded him of something from a month earlier. Flashback to that day, Al and Tester were out fishing. Even though Al wasn't a fisherman, he ended up catching more fish than Tester. Instead of getting jealous, Tester cheered him on and felt proud to be his friend. Not long after, Al discovered he could combine his farming skills into one ability. Excited, he tried it out, and boom! His power level shot through the roof, stronger than a Super Saiyang. After that, Al decided to head for the royal capital to sell his vegetables. On the road, he heard strange noises and scanned the area. Meanwhile, the adventurer group was still running from the dragon, who hadn't given up the chase. Up in the sky, Al spotted the massive beast. Then he had a wild idea. He grabbed a carrot and hurled it at the dragon. The result? A gigantic explosion. The dragon was toast. Al stood there, stunned. His farming skill fusion had seriously boosted his attack power. With no time to waste, he got back on the road, eager to deliver his vegetables. Meanwhile, the adventurer stared at the smoke in disbelief, wondering what just happened. Later, Al arrived at the royal capital and showed his ID to the gate guard. Around the same time, the adventurers discovered tracks from a passing cart and remembered seeing a flying carrot. Then, in a nearby alley, a criminal tried to kidnap a girl. Without thinking twice, Al dashed in to help. The kidnapper pulled a short sword and lunged at him, but Al stayed cool and flipped the guy with a clean judo throw. That's when he realized his newest ability, something called perception, was pretty handy. The girl thanked him and asked for his name. But Al just gave a polite nod and rushed off. He was late delivering his veggies. Al was at the vegetable market, finishing up a delivery of his freshly harvested produce. He felt content that he'd managed to get everything there on time and was just about to head back to his village. That's when Fel, the first princess of the royal capital Noggies, suddenly appeared, apparently searching for him. Al saw the same girl he'd rescued earlier. Fel approached and asked for his name, quickly making him an unexpected proposal. She wanted him to come to the royal capital and serve the royal family. Al, caught off guard, tried to politely turn her down, insisting that he simply wanted to continue his peaceful life as a farmer. He made an attempt to leave, but fell up the offer, promising him a massive field of 33,000 square meters if he agreed. Al, confused by her persistence, asked why she was so intent on recruiting him. That's when she revealed the truth about the world status system. She explained that the bandit he had defeated had a power level over 500, equivalent to that of a knight captain. Fel then asked to see his status. Al, fully aware that he was far more powerful than even the legendary hero of old, didn't want to reveal anything. Right then, the three adventurers who had recently faced a forest dragon arrived. They reported that someone in a carriage had taken down the forest dragon in the woods. Using the opportunity, Al quickly slipped away and rushed back to his village. Fel, now more convinced than ever that Al was no ordinary farmer, made up her mind she wouldn't stop until she brought him to the capital. Just then, a knight informed Fel that she needed to return to the royal palace immediately. Upon arriving with her father, they were met with grim news: hordes of dangerous monsters were approaching the kingdom of Magus. A knight mentioned that this could be the beginning of another disaster like the legendary Hellzone. The king was deeply shaken. He had believed peace was secured after the hero had defeated the demon King Macbeth and a treaty had been signed with the demons. But Officer Cecil voiced his concerns. He believed some demons were unhappy with the treaty and now sought revenge. Cecil went on to name Romeo Van Dead, the commander of the late Demon King's first army, as the one possibly orchestrating the monster attacks. He explained that the attempt to kidnap Princess Fel and the dragon's appearance were likely just distractions. The king was stunned, and Cecil warned that the enemy likely knew that the former hero who once defeated the Demon King was now dead. Despite Officer Cecil's urgent warning that demons were targeting the royal family, King Magus refused to abandon the capital. He couldn't bear to leave his people behind. Cecil, clearly concerned, admitted his respect for the king's resolve, but insisted he wouldn't stand by and let him die. He argued that the fall of the royal family would mean the collapse of the entire kingdom, but the king remained unmoved. Seeing this, the knight stepped in and urged the king to escape, vowing to defend the citizens with their lives. That night, Al returned to his home but accidentally smashed his door open, forgetting how much stronger he had become. He was about to take a break when his friend, Tester, came knocking. Al opened the broken door to find Tester warning him of an approaching monster horde. Time was running out, they needed to evacuate the village immediately. Al, oddly calm, mentioned checking on his vegetables first, to which Tester rolled his eyes and said he'd hide in a nearby cave. After a quick check, Al was relieved to find his vegetables unharmed. But then he heard strange noises. He ducked behind a tree to observe and spotted the monster horde heading straight for the royal capital. He hesitated, unsure if he should intervene, but quickly realized that if the capital fell, he'd have no customers for his vegetables. Meanwhile, Fel and King Magus were on the move, escorted by a squad of knights. Suddenly, Officer Cecil laughed coldly and led them into a trap. The path they followed ended in a dead end. Without warning, he turned on the knights and struck them down. Then he attacked King Magus directly, leaving everyone in shock. The king was gravely wounded, and the group struggled to fight back, but they couldn't match Cecil's power. That's when he revealed his true identity. To their horror, Fel and the king learned that Officer Cecil was actually Romeo Van Dead, a demon in disguise. One of the knights tried to stop him but was killed on the spot. Romeo sneered at the wounded king and revealed his twisted plan. He wanted Fel to become his Juliet and bear him 8 children. He attempted to take her by force, but his efforts failed. With a cruel smile, Romeo declared he would seize control of the kingdom as revenge. Then, to Fel's shock, he revealed his ability to perfectly mimic others, changing his form and voice to match her father. After transforming back, he unleashed a devastating spell on both Fel and King Magus, his intentions clear and his power overwhelming. The king barely managed to summon his guardian shield spell in time, but Romeo's power overwhelmed it. Fel rushed to aid her father, casting the same spell to reinforce their defense. But Romeo let out a sinister laugh and began chanting a powerful incantation that shattered their combined barrier. Fel stood frozen, unsure of what move to make. Romeo unleashed his Overdarkness spell, aiming to finish them off. Just as the spell was about to hit, the ground cracked and burst open. The strongest farmer in the world had arrived. Fel was stunned. It was the same guy who had once saved her from a kidnapping. Romeo demanded to know who he was. Al simply said he was a humble farmer. Romeo couldn't believe it. No ordinary farmer could dodge demon attacks like that. Al shrugged and said it was all thanks to the vegetables he ate daily, homegrown and full of nutrients. He even bragged about the eggplants he harvested that morning, rich in vitamins and fiber. Romeo flew into a rage and charged at Al with his blade. Al blocked the strike with ease and hurled Romeo into a nearby stone wall. Infuriated, Romeo absorbed the power of his subordinates and entered a terrifying new form. Now a monstrous demon, Romeo stood towering and bulked up. He looked like he never missed a chess workout. Al was impressed by the transformation, but not jealous. He knew he didn't need ridiculous muscles to win hearts. Fel, on the other hand, grew anxious. Romeo's power level had shot up. He was now level 78, with triple his original stats. Still, Al didn't flinch. He launched a brutal punch into Romeo's gut. Romeo collapsed, unconscious, while his followers fled in fear. With the enemy crushed, Al prepared to mop up the remaining demons, but they had already vanished. King Magus and Fel were safe, and relief swept through the royal court. The following day, King Magus personally thanked Al for defeating Demon General Romeo. Al replied that no thanks were needed. He did it to keep his crops safe. The king then offered Al a position to serve the royal family. Al recalled how Fel once made him a similar offer. She already guessed he'd refuse again. Still, she wanted to give him a gift, a field stretching 33,000 square meters, just for him. Fel asked Al to join the guild in return for her help. At the same time, he found out that the areas surrounding the kingdom were still dealing with monster attacks. Understanding the danger, Al agreed to her request and decided to register with the guild. Not long after, Al stood in front of his newly gifted land, 33,000 square meters of open field. However, he quickly realized it was nothing more than a stretch of rough, unused land. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe for the next part.